I'm going to call the September 24th, 2025 Charter Revision Commission to order. We are not going to do the first item on the agenda because we don't currently have a flag, so we're going to go right into public audience. When we do public audience, I just request that you state your name, your address, and limit your comments to the items on the agenda and to 3 minutes. So is there anybody from public audience who would like to speak? Hi. So if you can speak loudly so the mic can pick us up.
Is this on TV?
It's on TV. Smile.
Live.
Just stay seated. You can stay seated.
Maybe Burke, maybe
Yep.
the mic down a little.
Thank you, I'll do that.
Yeah.
No, I'll bring it to you.
Hey, Bert, can you just?
Or just move the mic closer to.
Yep.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Helen Peterson, 20 Longview Drive. I am a member of the Open Space Committee, but I speak to you again tonight as an individual to urge you to consider our amended request for changes to the Charter, Section 615, the Open Space Committee. And thank you for your help previously in amending the original request. Now, as the language in Section 615 presently is mostly more than 25 years old, the amended changes that the committee is requesting are most important and long overdue. Yes, we are advisory to the Board of Selectmen, but the decision makers must have and need the best and the most complete information to execute their responsibilities. I believe it is imperative that the amended changes requested regarding stewardship and due diligence be added to the language in Section 615. And as I said, these changes now that we are trying to amend the remission, that they have not been in the charter all these years. It must be codified in writing in the charter so that we protect the land and the public trust, the responsibility of all of us. And on your agenda tonight also, there is another item, the changing the term of the Board of Selectmen from 2 to 4 years, I believe. So I'd like to just comment on that quickly. I implore you to leave it at 2. And the most compelling reason that I have for you is that obviously, with what has been discussed so far regarding the transition of our town to a new government, it's still going to be with us for a while. The transition is not over, it is ongoing. And for that reason, I think that we should leave the terms the same, not changing too much all at once for them. And specifically this one, to leave it at 2. And I want to thank you for your attention and for your perseverance. So, can I give you this? You can give them copies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public audience who would like to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none. We will go on to our next agenda item, which is to approve the minutes from September 10th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Second.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay, discussion. Sorry. On,
You have to get to the
I know,
table.
on line 19, it says that the stretch between 1993 to 2000, I believe you did that to 2020.
Not on line 19.
I'm sorry,
119.
119,
Oh,
line
okay.
119. It was a very exhaustive study, and want to make sure that the minutes reflect that it was
This was
correct.
catch.
So what do you want amended to?
I want it amended from 2020 to 2023.
Yep.
Or, I'm sorry, from
That was
from
till 2023,
2001
correct.
to 2023.
Okay.
Correct.
That was it.
Yep.
Any other comments or discussion? Now do I have a motion
So moved.
to amend the minutes?
To amend the minutes to reflect 2023 as indicated by
Okay.
Mr. Knoll.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to discuss the first selectman and board of selectmen terms of office, which are sections 301 and 302 of our charter. Have you heard from,
Do we wanna try one more time?
Yes.
we're just pausing for 1 minute, we're trying to get one commission member on the phone, because he wanted to make sure he was participating in the meeting, so give us 1 minute to try to get him dialed in again.
No, it was
Okay. You think we've tried?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the connection with the library or his phone. I was
Yeah,
able
I
to
don't
talk to
know.
him in
Okay,
town
so-
hall.
We've tried, so our apologies for the delay in this. So we originally had proposed an amendment to go to 4-year staggered terms, which is outlined in the amended version of section 302, sections 1A. And we did some research at, Franklin did some research with the help of our town clerk at our last meeting that was presented regarding the makeup of the Board of Selectmen going back to 1993. And so we had moved to table this to this discussion today because we wanted to digest that information. And so here we are. We're gonna discuss whether or not we wanna make, so correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, because we had already proposed making a change, we have to propose either adopting the change that we made or going back to the original form or going back to something different. Like because we've amended, because we already discussed in a meeting, this proposed change, we would have to, if we end up wanting to amend this change, we have to make an amendment and a motion and a vote, right? Or no?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it,
Okay.
because then it's in the minutes what you
Right.
did and how you changed it.
Okay, so I think just because this is such a, we've talked about this quite a bit, I'd like to go around the table and give each of us an opportunity to voice our opinion on this as succinctly as possible, and so we can have a discussion and then a vote. So I'll start with Bert.
Well, I was among those who was persuaded that we should move to 4-year staggered terms, based in part on my own experience at the Board of Finance, and the idea that there is a learning curve and we want a degree of stability. I have come around from that position. I think that logic still applies to the way we've created the Board of Finance, the zoning board, and other sort of technical boards, but that within that structure, it makes sense to have a board that, for want of a better term, but not in a pejorative sense, is a political board, one that represents the various opinions of the community, because it's made up of the most visible elected officials in the town. So I would be in favor of reverting to the current policy of 2-year terms for the entire Board of Selectmen.
I kind of went into more detail our last meeting, so I'll keep it brief, but my position's the same, that I still feel that transitioning to a longer term provides continuity and stability in a way that I think recently, as we heard from multiple current Board of Selectmen, that wasn't present, that there is a learning curve, and I think we need to give them more time regardless of party affiliation, that it has absolutely nothing to do with that, that we've voted certain people in and they have the right to set goals and policies and implement those policies to try to implement change. And I think it's short-sighted to only give them frankly minimal amount of time to accomplish the goals that they're trying to accomplish, and then holding them accountable for things that haven't had enough time to come to fruition yet. So I think for stability and continuity purposes, I would vote for 4-year staggered terms.
I also support 4-year staggered. I think we had bipartisan feedback about emphasizing the governance over campaigning cycles and getting right into campaigning after learning about the job if you're new. I think there's a consistency that's built for oversight of the town manager if there's more of a longer continuation to follow those bigger goals, given the new status of having a board of selectmen, but also a town manager managing a lot of these responsibilities. I think it might change some of the appeal for professionals, other people to participate when it's being on the board over being on a very quick campaign cycle. And I think some of the other aspects, I think the staggered still allows some of that will of the people aspect. If there's some kind of disagreement, there's 3 up for election every 2 years. And then I think from that statistical study, although the last cycle was a little different, functionally, if you're running as an incumbent, you are typically running for multiple 2-year terms. And so the 4 doesn't necessarily change a lot of that dynamic.
Thank you. Paul?
Originally, I had supported the 4-year. Again, I was persuaded by what we heard from the Board of Selectmen members. However, over these hearings that we've had, I have not heard from anybody in the public supporting a 4-year term. And I went back and looked at what Franklin had provided and Bob, and it seems to me that the select people do get reelected. They make the decision to run again. It also allows for them to be there for a number of years. We did move, along with Jeff, I was a member of the last Charter Revision Commission, which moved to a town manager. And part of the reason we went to a town manager was to have that professional person in there that will allow for stability. I think the more I reflect about staggered terms, I believe it's confusing to the public to have staggered terms, and what are we doing here? And again, the fact that it's 91% that they're reelected, that I fall back on 2 things. The fact of stability, which we heard from the select people. However, it's also accountability and transparency. So if I have to balance one or the other, I'm going to go with the accountability and the transparency, and I think we should stick with the 2-year, everybody's up, and the public has an opportunity to select who they want. So I'm going along with the 2-year, and everybody's up.
I've been in the camp of 4-year staggered terms, as you all know, from the beginning, and I'm still in that camp. I think we have heard from the public. The Board of Selectmen is part of the public. They've all asked for this change. I think we need to respect that. And also, the Board of Ed has staggered terms, the Board of Finance has staggered terms, the United States Senate has staggered terms. I think the public can understand if their Board of Selectmen then has staggered terms. It does add for stability. It does still give the community a vote in who represents them and the control. And I think it's the right thing to do.
Lolita?
Yes, I originally was okay with the 4-year staggered terms until we heard from the public. And I do get the argument of stability and having time to implement policy. But I would be very reluctant to take away or diminish a right that the people already have, which is every 2 years they get to choose their elected leaders. That would mean our elected leaders would have to work harder to ensure that they are still worthy of the people's trust. And these 2 years, is what they can use that time. I would go with the 2 years primarily because I feel that the power should remain with the people to change their chief elected leaders sooner rather than later.
Actually, I'm on that.
Press accept. Ron, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh,
The missing commissioner, please. Commissioner Jonas.
So Ron, just to get you up to speed, we're going around the room and each person is speaking about what their pros and cons are of whether or not 4-year staggered term or keeping the 2-year term. The board of selectmen is what they believe in. So we're on to Melissa, and then we will go to you, and then I'll make a comment, and then we're gonna have some discussion.
Great, thank you.
well, going back and forth, I think, has been good to discuss this and talk it out loud. This sheet was phenomenal, but I think one of the things we gotta look at is what happened once we got a town manager. Because before that, the government was very different. So there was a lot of stability before we had a town manager. And what you just said is true, is we're still going through some growing pains of that type of government that our town is used to, that people have been here for 2 years or 20 years or however long they've been here for. I truly see pros and cons both ways. If they're really good at what they're doing as Board of Selectmen and they go for re-election, they're typically getting re-elected. If they're not good at what they're doing, then we as voters can say, we don't like what you're doing, you only had 2 years to mess things up, let's let it clean up again. Let's just say what it is. But 4 years gives that stability. I am really torn between the both of them. But if we had to make a decision tonight, I would say I would like to stick with the 2 years because we need that stability. And again, seeing how if we sometimes have enough problem to get people to run for some of these positions, a 4-year is a big commitment for us. I think we'd have less of an option of some of the great talent that we've had on our Board of Selectmen as it stands just since 2017. I think we would lose some of that because they're like, I don't know if I can get to 4 and I might be committing to 8 years, and that would be a lot for some people. So, I mean, I've had this general discussions with people in my store and other places, and they like the confidence that if they don't like what's going on, they can't fire the town manager, but they can basically fire the Board of Selectmen by voting them out. They don't like what's going on, but they like what's going on, they can just rerun and have 2 more years. So if I have to lean one way or another, I would stick with the 2 years as it stands right now.
Thank you. Ron, your turn. Can you hear me?
Ron?
Ron? Ron?
First
You
time
don't-
on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Ron.
Hey, sorry, I put it on mute.
Oh, that's okay.
I had someone in the car coughing, so I was trying to turn it on. I'm with you on the 2 years. I think probably similar reasons. I think it's basically a difference between more accountability with the 2-year cycle or easier for the Board of Selectmen as far as their campaigning goes, because it would be less time doing that. I think they threw some strawman arguments at us as far as a concern that the whole board would be wiped out and they'd have to start with a full slate of new people. But as we've looked historically, that never happened. And there's pretty much an incumbent. If they want to run again, they're going to get elected. Out of 30 years, maybe 4 instances where an incumbent got voted out. So in my opinion, having the higher accountability with the 2-year election is a better thing than trying to accommodate, making it easier for the board members to have to do less campaigning. And the other thing was that we talked about before, the state legislature legislator. The federal there's a lot of legislative bodies that are on a 2-year cycle, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. So I think trying to push either the 4-year single term or the alternating AB reduces accountability. And there was also an issue with the alternating terms where you get some really weird things through the voting, where you would have, if Party A was doing a bad job and Party B got voted in, there would be periods where the best they could do is get only even split. They wouldn't be able to get a majority when the electorate wanted to shift from A to B to B or whatever. So that's my 2 cents.
So I only have 1 cent left. I am a little on the fence about it. I am leaning towards the 4-year staggered term, however, because the people who currently do that job are the ones who want change, because I don't want to presume that I know how difficult their job is, because I don't know what it encompasses every day. And if they're telling us that the job has gotten a little bit more complex and they need more time to learn and do and execute their vision and goals for the town, I want to respect that from the leaders who are doing that for the town of Simsbury. I don't know what they do every day. I don't know what they're faced with at every Board of Selectmen meeting. And while they have got support from the town manager and there is consistency with that position, I think what we've also heard from many people is that we're in a period of time where having goals and visions as a Board of Selectmen are really important for the future of Simsbury. And if we don't give them the time to execute that vision and the goals for the town to protect what we all love, then I think we're doing a disservice to the electors, because we're not giving them the opportunity to execute those things well. So, but I can see both sides. I know that's not helpful, but so. So.
Do you want a motion?
I mean, yeah. I mean, is there any more discussion that anybody would like to have, or any more points that people would like to bring up? And if not, I think we need to have a motion on the table to take a vote.
I would agree with you on that, except historically we haven't seen that there's been a big turnover. So you look at the incumbents; they're there for 3 to 6 terms. So it's not there isn't a lot of people having to struggle to get up to speed.
Well, if you look at pre-town manager, that may be true. Post-town manager form of government, the two boards that came right after were split 3-3, okay? The one in 2021 was 4 Dems, 2 Republicans, and then we had the big turnover. So we've only really had 4 cycles of elections since the town manager form of government existed. If you look at prior history, it's when incumbents were getting, reelected. We had first selectmen who ran for multiple terms. There was consistency because of the system. They were full-time, they were paid, it was their job. We switched 4 cycles ago.
And what just to piggyback on that, I appreciate that. And it is a new world order, right, with the town manager. And this body has talked a lot about having the ability to, it's the technical term, wipe everybody out, change over, right? Mm-hmm. But what we've seen is when that happened in a 2-year cycle, the people who are new have said they need more time. It took them 6 months to figure out where the bathrooms were. Again, technical term. So if those people in that job are asking for more time, I think you're absolutely right. We should respect that, again, because it is different. We're in a different situation than we were.
For me, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you
I would actually counter that a little bit in that because we are in the first couple of years of having a town manager, we need consistency throughout a lot of the charter unless there's a real need to change. And I did not hear anybody other than the people who were in that position to say they wanted change. And they even said what they were doing moving forward was creating a handbook for the Board of Selectmen members so that they could learn a little bit more quickly. And I think there was some things there that they could have done to come up to speed a lot quicker that would have helped them in that process. And I do think having a turnover of 4 people in 1 year is an anomaly. That you won't have that down the road. And I also look at, we have in Connecticut, the state rep is 2 years. The senator is 2 years. So it's not unusual to have that. And they are the forward-facing people of the town. And they are the ones that if somebody needs something, they're calling them. They're not calling the Board of Finance, they're not calling Water Pollution Control. They may call the Board of Ed. And we also need to remember too that the Board of Ed controls 80% of the budget, all right? And these people are the legislative body, just like the state reps are the legislative body. In that if there's turnover there, then so be it. But that's the will of the people for what they want to do. And again, I started out like Bert, going, okay, we're going to need the 4 year. But the more I heard, the more I looked at it, the more I tried to balance, the stability versus the accountability and the transparency. I had to go on that side. So that's my
Ultimately, it's
thought.
the people who get to decide. So if they want to turn the board over, they should have the right to turn the board over. There should, diminishing that right for them to turn it over the way they're expecting to do it at the cadence that they're expecting, is not something I'm comfortable with, but I've already said that many times.
So, I know you wanted to say something, but just to note, the last election, the prior election, the last election, the reason there was so much turnover was not because they ran and lost, it's because they chose not to run, okay? So I just want to make that clear for the public who doesn't understand that nuance. It's not that they lost, they chose not to run again and become incumbents. So it was a new slate because they needed a new slate. To counter that point though, if we're doing staggered terms, 3 people are up for re-election every 2 years. We have 6 members of the Board of Selectmen. There is going to be turnover, potentially, with half of the board every single election cycle that we have. I know you want to say something, so I don't want to.
For me, and it dovetails with that comment, but accountability isn't a form of punishment. When I think of accountability, it's getting our elected officials to act on our behalf. So it's not a do this or else, it's more that we're holding you accountable to what the town wants. So if you see 3 people that get voted off and then the other 3 are left with, oh, okay, I guess we better kind of get on board with what the public actually wants, that's accountability to me. I don't think it's every 2 years threatening people's jobs and not accomplishing what the town wants then with just taking a flyer on new people every 2 years. I think accountability is still built into the 4-year staggered term.
Bert, did you want to say something?
I was going to make the same point about the election. It's just that I don't think we can read anything about the change of government into the fact that we had the 1 year when 4 people didn't run. At least for 3 of them, it didn't have anything to do with the change in the form of government. I can't speak to the 4th. I've got to say, I find what people are saying on both sides quite persuasive. It's not that I think anybody's making a mistake. We've just got to choose between two different values or two competing values, and I'm still coming down on the side of the 2-year terms.
We just have to pick our poison and send it to the Board of Selectmen, and they can say, you can tell them, we were split. They can say, we are not split. And, you know, they appointed us, and so they can make a decision as to what they want to present to the public, but.
Well, and it's
we've
okay
had
to be
this-
split, because the last town
Yeah.
charter
it's-
revision, it was a split vote to go to a town manager, so it wasn't unanimous
Yeah,
at that point
ultimately,
either.
it's the people who get to decide, so.
Right.
You know, we've had this discussion and we've really given it a good faith effort to look into it, and I think we just at this point have to pick and say, this is what the CRC decided on this, because everyone has a valid opinion, and that's why we're here.
Well, and we respect each other's opinions,
Yes.
which is, and we've heard from
Yeah.
a lot of people, so would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Okay, I make a motion that section 301 and 302 be reverted back to the original language in the charter as currently written. Bob, is that a
I'll
sufficient
second that.
motion?
Wait, as in what we originally revised or the 2007 charter? I'm sorry.
As the current charter language reads.
Because the current charter is still.
So I amend that
Okay.
motion to say the current language
Okay.
in the charter.
Which is the 2 years.
And Ron, did you second that?
Yes, that was to leave it as is, correct?
Correct.
I think we have added, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. I withdraw my.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Oh, I second the motion.
Oh, well, Ron seconded it,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 1 second.
or you can second it again. You can third it.
So I'm just so because I have so many versions in front of me. We're dealing with the original version, not our potential revision, but the original
The
version.
original.
I wasn't
Status
sure if we
quo,
had
yeah.
to make a nomination to get rid of our temporary version.
I don't think we ever actually made a
Right,
motion
yeah.
on that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think so either.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I can't
So
remember.
this is the 2 years.
Yes,
We have
the
to-
2 years.
The
To keep what
motion
we
is
have.
to keep it
The
at
2
2
years, 2 years for the Board of Selectmen, and everybody's up at 2 years,
Okay,
including the first.
so no further discussion, we're gonna take a vote. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 All right.
Ron, you gotta
Aye.
say aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? So it's a 4-5 split.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. It's a good
Okay.
split.
So,
Needs to
just
go
to be
to the
clear, the
selectmen.
motion carried by a vote of 5
5 to
4.
4.
5 to 4.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the red line changes.
Yeah.
Got it.
I wanna thank you all for a very healthy discussion. Yes, it's very healthy discussion around this and a respectful one. It's an important topic, so, thank you for doing that.
And thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is to review the town attorney research on the Conservation Commission, inland wetlands, and water course agencies, and open space land use boards. Okay, so what Bob has kindly.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes?
Excuse me, Chair, I'm gonna have to bow out of this, but thank you for accommodating my
Okay,
caller.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye,
Bye.
Ron, thank you.
Thank you for your time. So we have a very long, Conservation Commission and Natural Resource Report from UConn that has been provided to us. About what's constitutes easements and what a commission does and all that wonderful stuff. In addition to that, there was a memo from Bob on September 16th that cited state statute 7-131. Am I saying that right? That's a state statute, correct? About what a conservation commission, what the state allows for a conservation commission. And then the additional materials of section 22A-42 is a state statute regarding inland wetlands. And it's very confusing because there's lots of state statutes in here, of course there is. So, we've received a number of public comments regarding conservation, inland wetlands, and open space. So I think we should take conservation and inland wetlands as one subject because it's one commission, and then we can talk about open space committee as a second one. Now, Franklin has provided this in our packets, what our current charter says, and then what the ordinances say regarding those specific commissions. We are not here to debate code, because that's not our charge. We're only looking at the charter items, and so that's where I'm starting. So, if we go to the Conservation Commission, which is section 605 in chapter 6 of our current charter, which is Conservation Commission, Inland Wetlands, and Water Course Agencies, it does refer to our state statute. I do have one question, however, for you. When I was reading through the state statute, it refers in the last sentence of our state statute, it references 7-131 and 131A, but doesn't refer back to 131B of the state statute. If it refers to just 131, does it have to reference A and B separately? Or, and the reason I ask that is because B has some important information in it. Just have to find my paper where I made my notes.
What are you looking at?
So,
605 at the
Section
end of the-
605 in our charter, the last sentence,
Right.
Well,
it,
it is, I think I know where you're going, because it is everything.
7-1.
so it says 7-131, and then it says 7-131A,
Which is a separate statute.
which is a separate,
Yeah.
You're confusing
Yeah, yeah.
subsections with the
Okay.
A after the.
yeah, I don't understand the ordering of that, so.
Okay, so
I
like
get it.
7-131A has a subpart A
and B, okay, got
but
it,
that's,
Got it.
those are separate A's.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So we lawyers do this.
So why is there, if 731,
So what's 7-131?
yeah,
7-131.
Because if this is
Municipal
7-131A, what is 7-131?
Well, it
So, public forests. Yeah, it's municipal forest, public shade trees is 7-131. 131A is conservation commissions. 131B is acquisition of open space land and easements, reevaluation of property subject to easement. And 131C is open space land definitions.
Yes, yes, appendix.
which one is the open space definition?
B,
B.
C, C.
Well, the definitions is 131C, open space land definitions.
Okay.
But is that one repealed?
Could be, because I don't see
131C.
any.
It doesn't have any text on it.
It's repealed, yes,
Yep,
effective, so that's repealed. 131B is still standing. 131A still standing, 131 stands.
So 131B is for open space?
Oh, just a moment.
Yeah, 131B allows the town to acquire open space and then revalue it because it's open space.
Okay, so when we talk about the open space committee, we should probably go back to, do we have to reference that? So we received notes from, I believe, Marjorie Wieners on conservation that I want to say it was many months ago,
Yeah.
maybe in May? I could look specifically.
It was in January
It was
30th.
a long time ago.
Right.
Regarding conservation in inland wetlands, and, I think much of her comments related to our code and not the charter. And in both cases of open space and conservation, we've received comments that they want language added regarding public audience, but public audience is already in our charter that each commission has the right to do that. We don't need to include that in each section because it's just what that commission determines as the rules for their particular commission.
Just a point on that, I think we did have discussion around public audience with respect to zoning and planning.
Yes.
And potentially, having some language that would require public audience, not public hearing. But we don't need to talk about that right now.
Right.
Let's circle back.
So, as written, the Conservation Commission is 7 members with 2 alternates. They serve terms of 4 years. They are appointed members by the Board of Selectmen. Okay. It does not refer to what the makeup of that particular board should look like, unlike open space, which determines who's on that committee. I don't think we've heard any discussion about who the makeup of that board should be. I know there's been some public comments on how there should be, I don't know what the right word is for this, some accountability for this board because of the concerns over their ability to put a stop to development when it might not be consistent with what the town is looking to do. There's not a lot of synergy between them and zoning and planning like there is with like design review board and zoning and planning, is what I've heard, but it's open for discussion. Do anybody have any comments?
That was one letter we got.
Right, that was one letter that we received.
Right, so we received a comment from Linda Schofield.
Yes.
And the thrust of it was that, well, I don't want to characterize it. A concern I have is not so much accountability as Linda described it, but essentially the lack of real communication and coordination between the Board of Selectmen or among the Board of Selectmen and the various boards that oversee these applications and projects, and making sure that each of them is acting or taking account of the priorities of the town as a whole. I don't have a specific proposal to make along those lines, but I think that that is something we should try to address. And one thing I'd like to ask Bob is exactly under state law, what are we permitted to implement in terms of the relationships among these various boards?
Well, the Inland Wetlands Act, 22A42, authorizes first of all, it requires that an inland wetlands agency be created. And it can be an independent board. I'm looking at 22A42 subsection C. It can be an independent board, which it is essentially today. Or the municipality can authorize an existing board or commission to carry out the provisions of the Inland Wetlands Act. Each municipality acting through its legislative body or charter may authorize any board or commission, as may be by law authorized to act, or may establish a new board in conformity with the regulations adopted by the commissioner under 22A39. So no matter what board or commission becomes the Inland Wetlands Agency, they are obligated to comply with the Inland Wetlands Act. In my experience, more than one Hartford area town has taken their independent inland wetlands agency and folded it into the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think one town may have folded it into the Board of Selectmen, but they've combined they've designated an existing either land use board or other board to act as the agency. It's also true, I think, that lots of towns have inland wetlands and conservation commissions combined into a single border commission like it is here. So there is opportunity to change the existing makeup and either designate planning or zoning. It's usually planning or zoning. It's not typical for the legislative body of the town to be the inland wetlands agency. And I'd be surprised if they want to be honest with you, because there's a lot of regulatory requirements, because inland wetlands agency, if you read the statute, really carries out the mission of the Department of Environmental Energy and Environmental Protection. It's like the Board of Ed. It has state responsibilities, but it's a local board that carries out those state responsibilities. And the state, through DEEP, dictates through its model regulations and through the statute itself how they conduct their business. But over the years, it becomes a very technical orientated agency, land use commission, because there's a whole bunch of case law that's built up over the years that defines regulated activity, regulated area, upland review area, lots of terms you've heard in inland wetlands. And there's a lot of case law that determines how the agency has to construe those. So the answer is you can do something different that's being done today.
So, because we're not proposing combining P and Z, okay, with the inland wetlands, like DRB reports to zoning, is appointed by zoning,
Yes.
okay? Is it more appropriate to have inland wetlands, if we were to change anything, come from the planning board, because that's really who starts the whole process of many of these applications, not all of them. But right now, we have it where the legislative body is appointing those people. If we were to change something and have it an appointed board that's appointed by the planning board, for example, should we become more, is it, in the towns that do that, then do they specify the makeup of that, like we do open space, where we have to have one person from here, one person from there, and one person from there, and,
I don't think you have the authority to do that.
Okay.
And it's the legislative body that would designate a board or commission to act as the inland wetlands agency as it's currently constituted. It probably makes more sense to have the zoning commission take on those responsibilities, because most if you're looking to streamline the application process and avoid, an applicant going to as many boards and commissions, if you send it to planning, you haven't really done anything, because most applications, as we learned earlier from the research, are zoning commission applications, not planning. Planning commission is subdivisions, zone changes, and a few other things, but the workhorse of the land use boards is really the zoning commission.
So does Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission, like DRB, provide a recommendation to zoning on an application? Because I know DRB meets prior to zoning. Because my understanding is inland wetlands has been, I think the comments we've heard is they feel outside of the process, and it doesn't sound like they're providing any positive or negative referrals to zoning on a consistent basis.
It's not a referral, it's a regulatory approval.
Approval, okay.
And the statute says that a zoning commission cannot act on an application that has a inland wetland regulated area within the application until the inland wetlands agency takes an action.
Okay.
And if it turns down the permit, then zoning can't act on the application because it doesn't.
I would be hesitant to make any changes to conservation and inland wetlands at the moment, and the reason is we've gotten one written comment. The written comment came I think as a result of a declination by the Inland Wetlands Commission. And over the years, the Inland Wetland Commission and the Conservation Commission have provided the technical expertise that's been needed to make sure that the developer isn't trying to get water to flow uphill. That's putting a simple thing here. But they have the technical expertise to follow what the regulations are. And in Marjorie's letter, one of the things she did ask for and thought that there should be more communication between the Conservation Commission and zoning, planning, and that they don't refer things to conservation, which, and again, it's appointed by the Board of Selectmen. They have the authority to make the changes if they don't like what's going on, if they hear from the public that, hey, wait a minute, this isn't going right. I have no reason to want to make it easier for developers in the town of Simsbury. We've seen enough. All you gotta do is walk Iron Horse. All you have to do is go to the north end or the Hartford North. And even a recent application came through for 2 more 72-unit apartments that came to planning the other day. So, and then we got somebody wants to put solar fields up on where the collective is, where the old Tower Ridge is, and wipe out the vista that's there. That's my personal opinion, no technical opinion there.
That's a siting council issue, not a zoning issue.
No, but the town still has the ability to make comment at public hearing around the property, whether it is historic, scenic, or wetlands use. And so I would be hesitant to make any changes, but I would encourage the Board of Selectmen to spend more time with conservation and zoning and planning as well. One of the things the reasons we didn't move things into planning and zoning and combine it is because they each have separate functions. And if you then take conservation and inlands and throw it into zoning, what's gonna get the short change? Same thing with planning, so that's my opinion on that.
I agree, it's a separation of powers within a certain function that keeps these functions working to the fullest of their capacity, just to make sure that that everybody's heard, even the developers get a chance to be heard.
And they always have, the developers always have the chance to take legal action if they think something isn't correct. And it's their right.
Yeah.
So in our code, I don't, unless I'm missing something, I only see a reference to the Conservation Commission regarding fees. Doesn't seem to be anything else. Like open space has got a lot in the code, but it doesn't have, conservation doesn't have a lot in the code. So we may not want to make any changes to the charter, but part of our comments back to the Board of Selectmen may be, based on public comments, that we want them to relook at the code as related to the Conservation Commission. And then it's up to them.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
What I would say is I agree. I don't see a need to change this board right now based off of one comment, but I do want to be sensitive to that comment. And when we talked about Marjorie's comments back in January, we talked about some kind of forum, right, between the Board of Selectmen and Open Space, or whoever the appropriate boards are to talk about these very questions. So I don't know if we would want, I don't know if you really want to bake it into the charter per se, but maybe that's a recommendation when we send the report, because this is a consistent theme we keep hearing.
Well,
I
it's
think
good
we're
to
kind
let them know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're kind of jumping from one function to another, and it might be useful
It just must do with
to
conservation.
focus, so inland wetlands, I agree, their charge is to enforce state regulations, to act as a kind of mixed regulatory agency making judicial determinations or fact determinations about whether particular proposals comply with the law. And I don't see any reason to believe that our current structure prevents them from acting accurately in that way. And it's not because these are legal questions, they're not questions of policy so much. The charge of the Conservation Commission may be slightly different and more subject to blending with other considerations. I don't know, as I said before, what we should do about that other than encourage the Board of Selectmen to work more closely with them. I don't know that it's true that the fact that they're appointed makes them less accountable than.
I do find it interesting though, and I know we're not talking about open space, but open space has one member as a requirement to be trained in something.
Yeah.
And where conservation inland wetlands, there's no specificity, if I said that right, regarding the qualifications of the members that are being appointed, so. And I don't know if that's the case in other towns. I would tend to leave it as is and just trust the judgment of our legislative body, but I certainly wouldn't want to make this commission a political thing, because it never has been.
Right.
Yeah, the statute does require
Yeah, there is something.
that at
in
least
there
one
about
member of the
Yeah.
wetlands agency has to go through a
And to
certification
go through
course.
some training, right?
Training and
Okay.
give that to the other members.
Section 22A-42, subsection D. One member has to.
I thought the Yukon materials would be useful because it sort of gives a list of best practices. And that box on the second page says, here's the powers and duties. That's sort of in my view, that's sort of an outline of an ordinance that the Board of Selectmen could consider, because frankly, I was surprised when I couldn't find a Conservation Commission ordinance. I thought for sure there was one, but there isn't.
There isn't,
Yeah.
which
So,
is surprising.
yeah. And through that ordinance, if the board were to choose to do it, all these definitional issues could be addressed. Because the Conservation Commission does have significant powers and responsibilities over open space.
Maybe that's why in the past years it's been combined into one for
Yeah,
that technical expertise.
Right. Like it says, must keep an index of all open areas, publicly and privately owned, including open marshlands, swamps, and other wetlands. And if that were an obligation that was defined in an ordinance, or you could put it in the charter if you chose to. But it's usually, that's not really the way the charter reads. It's not that specific.
It's quote code.
But,
So, are we in agreement to keep it as is with a recommendation in our report back to the Board of Selectmen that they create an ordinance for the Conservation Commission, taking into consideration public comments and this Yukon report and.
Yeah, I don't think Marjorie would object to that, and the reason is, in the last paragraph, second to last paragraph, the Conservation Commission would benefit from public input on conservation issues of concern to the public. And I think that's why she wanted a public audience, which they can have public audience anytime they want. But, I mean, that recommendation that they spend more time together, I think would be beneficial, particularly, planning, zoning, and the Board of Selectmen.
Do you think she really means, right, because I gotta imagine she knows she can have a public audience tonight. Like, do you think she really means requiring it? I don't know, that's a question. Yeah, should we have a conversation about requiring public audience?
Well, her statement was that she would request that public audience is allowed at the beginning of the Conservation Commission, and it is allowed under our charter today. I just don't think that many commissions realize
That they can do it.
that they can do it, because historically it hasn't happened in many of the commissions. I think our conversation was around maybe requiring zoning and planning, because it's so important, outside of, not public hearings, because it's different, but having public audience.
But I struggle with saying these commissions have
Even
to
if you're
have
Board
it
of Ed.
and
No, I
these
think
ones
all.
don't. I think you gotta go.
Yeah, no,
one way or
everything.
Well, I
This
think
is a
some of the,
public-
what we heard earlier on regarding public audience, some of the boards and commissions didn't know they were allowed to have public
They
audience.
just didn't know it.
Because historically, they haven't had public audience.
It's tricky with the land use agencies, though. You take Conservation Commission as an example. Yes, they can have public audience, but if that public audience, someone addresses the public audience, addresses a pending wetlands application, that could become a grounds for appeal, because that could be construed as an illegal public hearing. That's why zoning doesn't have public audience and planning doesn't have public audience, because the town planner says you can't do it. Unless you can go to a planning commission and say, I think the POCD ought to include the following policy, but you cannot go to the planning commission and speak to a pending application that hasn't been noticed as a public hearing. Same with zoning.
But can't you, in that instance, and I maybe don't, this is not a pushback,
Yeah.
I'm just asking a question, like, there's certain things that we can't address in public audience, and we just very, diplomatically say, hey, you have your 3 minutes, but there's things we can't
Yes.
respond to. Couldn't you in that same instance?
You-
Like, that you're discussing a pending application, we can't really get into that.
You can do that, but if you have a controversial application in front of planning or zoning or wetlands, and and I've sat through these meetings in other
Hundreds of
towns.
meetings.
Yeah, and you got 100 people in the audience, it's very hard for the chair to say, you can't talk about that.
I know, trust me.
Hey, you're better than
I've
that.
been there.
Maybe that's
So,
why it's
I can
important
show you some
to-
COVID minutes.
Well, maybe that's why it's important to make that a recommendation that you may have public audience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
giving
it's best
guidance
we
that you
can
may have
You may
public
have it,
audience according to the
And-
rules that you set. I
According to
think
the
is-
rules that you.
And that's how
But
the
we
charter's
have
written.
rules, yeah. And we have rules for our public audience to limit this to what we're talking about
On the
today, right?
agenda,
So-
yeah. Maybe silly question, maybe not. Just like the Board of Selectmen did not really have a handbook, guidelines, whatever. If someone new on a commission and or even the head of chair of a commission, do they have, except for the code and the charter, do they have any kind of like, this is what you are responsible for, X, Y, Z, and this is what you should be allowing? Do they have that?
There is now a requirement for zoning commissions in the statute to go and get training within the first year of being on, I think it's within the first year of being on the board.
But all the commissions, I'm just wondering about all the commissions.
It
It's-
doesn't
okay.
apply to all commissions, but the land use
Yeah.
boards now have an obligation under the statute to take a certain level of training, and it's offered by UConn, and it's offered by the various other organizations, statewide organizations that are involved in planning. And it's a pretty extensive requirement. I think it's either 6 or 12 hours of actual training that you have to get certification that you've done to be on a zoning commission.
But like, say, example, like, we encourage everyone to have public audience, but they say, well, we've never done it that way. Well, just because you've never done it that way, be it Board of Ed, be it whatever commission that's out there, I just wasn't sure if there's any clear, concise, besides the charter and the code. It seems like I said, there was nothing even about Conservation Commission in the code, so what was their charge without, except for the state stuff, what was their charge being from the town? Who they can use for staff, who could, all that stuff, it's not really there.
Well, the charge is only for inland wetlands, conservation, I mean, it has rules, but like,
It's not much.
there's not much out there.
Point of
Yeah.
clarification, Chair. Some boards and commissions have rules of procedure that outline a little bit of their purpose and what they do.
Right.
Not every single board and commission has a rule and procedure, but the town clerk has a record of many of them. But that is an instance where if it's not in the charter or the code, it's written somewhere, some type of guideline.
But they also do have books which are guidelines for the zoning and for planning,
Yeah.
and even.
Land uses.
Right,
yeah.
they have that. I know Board of Finance, the state has a book that outlines what the powers are of the Board of Finance. And even, I think zoning Board of Appeals has something, because I was on that like 25 years ago, and I remember seeing something.
Okay,
So, and I think some of that's provided by the state.
okay. seems like there's a lot of input from different sources, state, regs here, but it's, like you said, they never had it because that's just the way they never did it before. Is that a reason to not have public audience or to have public audience? Because what Bob, you said of those, liability situations as well, so.
Well, they also have town staff that would say,
Right.
give
Yeah.
them input into
Okay.
what they can and cannot do.
Okay.
All right, so we're good with it as written, we're just gonna make a recommendation that the Board of Selectmen consider adding something to the code regarding the Conservation Commission.
I got that.
Okay. So next item is open space. So open space, we've received, several comments. In addition to, Helen's, we've received, from Susan Messina a couple of times. And Susan's have been kind of revised over time to be consistent with what the whole commission wants, as I understand. Her most recent comments were on from a September 2nd meeting, and it's the one that's multicolored.
Yeah. The one with the pink and
So-
the green and all of
Yeah.
The Open Space Committee in the charter consists of people who are appointed, and they're specific about who is on that committee. One of the changes that the Open Space Committee has proposed is that for the 3 other members that are in the charter, they would like it to be revised to include town electors and specified parties, so one's a Republican, one's a Dem, and one's an unaffiliated. They also have made a recommendation that, again, that the public audience is held. We've talked about that, we don't need to add it because it's already in the charter, it's a right that they have. And then they wanna talk, but we add a line about that they use the Town of Simsbury's open space disposition proposal data form. That is quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
For a form. I assume that form is titled that and it exists. I don't know what it is.
Did she give us a copy of that?
No, it's in
Yeah.
the email.
It's in the email,
It's
but
in
Right.
the email.
if, I don't know, this is my question, if there's a form that they're proposing that they use, doesn't that form have to be approved by the legislative body? I don't know, like, who made up the form and is, what are the, because I didn't see it in the code.
So just point of information for the public, all the comments, written comments received by the charter, to the Charter Revision Commission addressed to them is compiled in a public written comments tab on the Charter Revision Commission page on the Simsbury website. This is what the commission is currently discussing. So it's not included in the packet, but it is publicly available,
Right.
and it is the most recent comment from Open Space Committee. That's what the commission is discussing, just for the.
Thank you, Franklin, I appreciate that. That's good clarification. So, I don't know what this form is, does it exist in the code, was it approved by the legislative body, is it something that they use on a regular basis or not use? Or did the Open Space Committee develop it? I don't know what the protocol is for that.
Just as a kind of drafting principle, I think it would make sense if the thrust of the proposal is that the commission adopt some kind of uniform structure or form for applications, we could say that without specifying in the charter a particular document and then leave it either to the commission or to the Board of Selectmen to craft the particular document and let them change it as necessary.
That's a good point, because we would wanna have the
Yeah.
charter have to live with this form that
Yeah.
they may wanna change later.
Later, that's right. I mean, the concept should be there, but not the details should be left to the legislative body to figure out what they want at that time.
Yeah, because if you
Yeah.
mention a specific form, you're stuck with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
you
stuck
were
with
just,
it,
Well, the metrics may change by which they evaluate things
Mhm.
5 years from now.
yeah.
I think that would be best placed in the code, chapter 21-3, where it's creates the open space committee, and then a line could be added. The last line says, committee shall establish rules of procedure for conduct of its business and shall develop forms for carrying out the purposes of this ordinance. And there's clear, and they can do it without that line in there,
Right.
but
But to add that as a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen to
Yeah.
consider for a code change versus adding it to the charter.
yeah, adding a specific reference to a
Yeah,
form in the charter would be unusual.
yeah.
Yeah,
Apart from that, I don't feel like I can vote for any particular form.
yeah.
Just a point of information or a point of clarification. In the, what we received from Susan last time, at the bottom of the first page, it says, below for reference, please see documentation referred to herein. Number one is Town of Simsbury Open Space Disposition Proposal Data Form. Okay? And then it goes over and the next page says Town of Simsbury Open Space Disposition Proposal Data Form, 2016, updated 2025. So my question is, has this already been approved by the open space, which I believe it has, but also by the Board of Selectmen? Does anybody know that?
I don't think it's ever been approved by the Board of Selectmen, but I don't think it has to be. I
Okay.
think it's, the form
So it's
is,
something the Open Space Committee came up with,
yeah,
and, okay,
And they use that form
so,
to give counsel to select.
yeah, to gather information about the merits, relative merits of a particular acquisition or disposition of a parcel of land that's been designated as open
okay, so to
space.
follow up on that, in the ordinance, it says the Board of Selectmen shall appoint in accordance with the provisions of section 602 of the Charter, an open space
Wait,
committee.
you don't mean the ordinance, you mean the charter.
Well, it says that, well, it's there, but it's also here in the ordinance, okay? To assist and advise the Board of Selectmen in identifying and evaluating land deemed suitable for acquisition and preservation. So, wouldn't it just be the Open Space Committee would use this form in their role of assisting and advising?
That's the way I interpret it, yeah.
Okay, so it's redundant, is it redundant to have it in the charter?
Well, there's lots of redundancies between charter provisions and the provisions of ordinances. It just doesn't, to me, I don't know of an instance where in the charter it dictates a certain form.
Yeah,
Yeah, because in the ordinance, there's a lot here under fund for, the fund for land acquisition. There's like a lot here.
There's a
that
lot in
open
that code
space
for
can
open
already do.
space.
Yeah, section 21-4, selection criteria for land to be considered for acquisition and preservation. It's pretty complete. And the other thing about the recommendation, could you pull that back up? There's some reference to private land.
Yeah, it's also something in there regarding private land, open space and private land.
Well, it says, and can be requested for due diligence for private land. I guess what that, the intention there is, can be requested for due diligence in proposals to acquire private land.
Right.
I think that's the way it should be read. Because,
But that's a code change.
Yeah, could be, or it could be in the ordinance, or it could be in the charter if you chose to put it there.
How would you suggest it be in the charter? It seems like a lot to put in the charter.
Again, the charter today does not have that level of specificity. It's usually left to ordinances that are adopted to implement the charter, like this chapter 21. It's exactly a good
Right.
example of that.
Well, and I think that it's more appropriate in the code, in the ordinances, because then the legislative body can make it consistent with their goals with the town as it changes. But, so really if you look at just the charter and the recommendations from the open space committee that are potentially charter related are the makeup of that particular board, which they are encouraging some equal representation from the parties. And we do specify that with other commissions.
Police commission and board of ethics.
Right.
The current makeup of those three members, by the way, I looked this up, is one Republican, one Democrat, and one unaffiliated voter.
The one element of the proposal is deemed suitable for acquisition, preservation, and stewardship. Stewardship is a new concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
does that mean?
stewardship means, the way I understand stewardship is, it's
like
creating a proactive plan
Okay.
to maintain the functions and values of an open space parcel. It's not just you buy it, you let it sit in a natural state, and you
It's
leave
the
it
care
alone.
of the land.
Okay.
Stewardship means you go out there and you proactively take actions to preserve and enhance your open space areas.
So to prevent any issues in the future, should we define stewardship as specific to that particular provision? Because it could be anything, right? If
Well-
there is an ambiguity in
Yeah.
it, and somebody could
And
show
to be
up and
financial is-
Exactly, that's what I was thinking about too.
financial.
It could be financial, but
Yeah.
preservation, in my mind, preservation is broad enough to include stewardship, so stewardship could be put in the ordinance.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
what do we understand was the purpose of proposing to add stewardship? It's a little vague for me, but it sounds like it's, the idea is to add some level of, or element of consideration to the deliberations that aren't presently
Yeah.
there. And,
Yeah, what is not there, because the public comment was to add stewardship and due diligence,
I
right?
guess we should have asked.
Yeah,
from
we
the
should have asked
outset.
what that is, because to add that, what was the reason for adding that? Because the language already is pretty clear. So
Yeah,
what are we missing in this?
I felt that due diligence went back to previous comments we got about following procedures and processes that are defined in the code on the dispute that was mentioned previously for a spot of land. Stewardship, however, I don't know, it's a little more ambiguous.
Should we ask for more clarity on that as to why they want to add that in there? Like, what do they mean by those ideas?
And from our point, as I said, I didn't have any proposals, but my concern is that the boards should take account of broader policy goals. You could read stewardship that way, but it might make sense for us simply to ask
Yeah.
that the Conservation Board take more into account in terms of the decisions and policies of the other boards.
I think the Conservation Commission's statutory authorization, when it says index of open space areas, including open marshlands, wetlands, to obtain information, there's sort of a stewardship obligation that's built into what the Conservation Commission's charge is. Supervise, manage municipal-owned open space or parks. I mean, manage is sort of a synonym of stewardship, I think. It's an affirmative obligation to not just let the trees grow and die and fall over, but to prune the open space area to, forest management is its own discipline. But I think the Conservation Commission already has that, certainly it has the authority to do that. I don't know if you can read it, have the obligation to do that.
And I just read the word stewardship, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah,
That's true.
It's ambiguous.
Yeah.
We need to know, well, I want to know why they would want that in there, because there's obviously something that's driving them to want stewardship and due diligence, and what stewardship means.
And does it overstep the authority of the Conservation Commission? I mean, they do overlap in some areas, but who has that stewardship?
That's another important question.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
another question would be
Who has
too,
it?
is does the open space committee really have the bandwidth to become stewards of a property when there's no funding for that committee? So, how are you gonna be a steward of something if you're not given the resources to do that?
Yeah.
To steward.
Go back to the money.
Well, let's,
So, do we wanna get clarification from the open space committee on what they meant by stewardship? And then how do we all feel about, specifying the makeup of the other three members with party affiliations?
I have no opinion one way or the other. If
I
they-
mean,
they say
the
they
committee
want it-
wants it.
If they say they
Right.
want it, I'm willing to defer to them for that.
Yeah, I mean, they know better than.
They know better than I do, so certainly.
So you're saying you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with,
Is anybody
I'm
not
okay with
okay with
whatever
that?
they want, because I have no opinion on this.
Sometimes it's difficult, though, to meet those
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will we just
prescribed.
tie their hands on finding members if they can find
I know.
specific designations and no others?
And you have to, I think it's important to look at the purposes behind the committee and whether or not party affiliation is directly related to the purpose. Like the Board of Ethics, for instance. You could make an argument that 3, 3, and 3, or whatever it is directly related to the implementation of the Code of Ethics because, maybe a Democrat would have a bias towards a Democrat, that sort of thing. Somewhat the same for the police commission, although not as direct.
I mean, does providing party specificity make it a political board?
That's a good.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
do you bring politics into it when it shouldn't be?
Well, so
You already
maybe
got
we should
politics
ask them,
in The makeup of the chairs, but that's a good point.
yeah, maybe we should ask them, because I don't know how to evaluate that, except to say if they want it. They
also
must
want
know
a
why they
4-year
want
term
it.
for those people.
We're back here.
I mean, it's similar to Water Pollution Control Board,
So we could give you
Which
the 4 years.
is appointed. Appointed for 4 years.
I need a win, Bert.
You're like, wanna give them something, eh?
Well, they don't have any specificity in the charter of how long their term is.
No, they don't, for the 3.
For the 3 people.
I think it's almost like an ex officio position. Whoever happens to be the chair of zoning is automatically.
Right.
Right, but the 3 other non.
No,
three
this is
other-
just for
Yeah,
other town electors appointed for a 4-year term. They're only saying those 3 people should get a 4-year.
Because planning and zoning are
Automatic.
automatic, but they're 4-year terms, right?
But it's also, you don't know where those terms fall, right? So you may have a
They
zoning
wanna-
commission
You got the first-
for 2 years.
first
and somebody
select
else for
Chair of planning,
Yeah.
chair of conservation, which is appointed,
It doesn't
chair
say-
of zoning, elected, chair of cultural parks and recs, which is appointed, or their designee. And then 3 other town electors.
The only word I take issue with is designee, I just wanna make sure that the designee is an elector and not a staff member.
No.
Well, it says town electors.
But then it says or designee.
Do we have any staff members that actually live in town?
Planning Commission's 4-year term.
I don't think staff should be on a commission
No,
like
I don't
that.
think so either, but they're there for advisory.
So what does designee mean? I mean, if you don't wanna
No,
do it,
that's
are you
all-
gonna
that-
like have your wife do
No,
it?
no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no,
like-
no, that's only from the first selectman, the chair, of
Right,
planning,
right,
zoning.
Or-
They could send somebody, assuming,
Yeah, but who
assuming
sends
it's gonna
somebody?
be one of the members.
It should
of
be
the
another
commission.
member of that commission. It
Right.
shouldn't be just a designee. I couldn't just say, you know what, hey, Paul, I couldn't do this. Could you do it for me? And you have nothing to do with
Then
that
you're the
board.
liaison.
Or you're
You
the
just, you just add in, designate from the.
from
that
the
board, from
applicable
that
board,
From the
appropriate,
applicable board.
yeah.
That,
Point of information,
I see
Madam
the point.
Chair, 2-year terms for the open space committee members.
Thank you.
I just think it needs to say from the applicable board, because designee is a little open-ended. I don't know what it is. I think it's implied that that's what it is, but I don't know.
We can add that,
Yeah.
just to make it
I
clear,
agree.
yeah,
It's-
yeah.
I just wanna be clear on that.
And I know it might be, and I was looking at the whole chapter 6, this was the only committee, commission, whatever, that basically said, we're gonna establish our rules of procedure. I realize that's the way that all the commissions work, but it was spelled out very clearly only for this committee.
You mean
The last
That's the last
sentence.
sentence.
And I wasn't sure because it was a newer committee, not, it seemed kind of weird. Isn't every commission establish rules of procedure for the conduct of its business? Am I just
We have
being
it on the
petty?
charter
No,
somewhere,
no,
don't
it
we?
is somewhere.
It is in the charter.
Right, but it was spelled
No,
out
I
very
know. No, I
specifically.
know what you're
Right,
saying.
but generally it is,
Right.
but then it's spelled out again just for this
Right.
committee, just seemed a little, I
We
don't know.
can clean up the language because it's implied that all committees get to have their.
Establish
have
the rules of procedure, yeah,
Yeah.
it just seemed
So,
redundant.
right now, we want more, input from them regarding what they mean by stewardship, why they're so adamant about the makeup of the other 3 members. Are we all in agreement with adding designees from the applicable committee?
Yep.
And we want to
That-
eliminate the sentence of establish rules and procedures for the conduct of business, because that's implied, because that's in the charter already for everybody. Are we all good with that?
Less printing in the Hartford Current.
Right, let's,
Cheaper
it's
for
one
us.
less line.
Yeah, one less line.
Well, and their new green sentence in the green that they submitted,
Yeah,
it's I'm just confused on,
I think that's a code issue.
yeah, that's not a charter
I think the
thing,
green sentence is a code,
addition.
yeah.
Or
So we
change.
could make that as a recommendation to
Yeah.
the board of selectmen. and
Thank you.
Not address it in the charter.
Thank you.
Okay, so, good to move on to the library board of trustees?
Yes.
Okay, library board of trustees, we have received comments. Find them.
It's under 301.
Section 301.
Thank you.
And that was from, the only thing we
We only
got.
received one thing from Holly, who's the chair. There is a discrepancy between code and charter. It's referred to the board of trustees in the charter and it's referred to as board of directors in the code. And there's a discrepancy in the number of members.
Right.
I didn't see, so we had 9 in the last revision still. Maybe, I don't know if it was changed to one before that, but I wonder how long it's been 9 when the code's never been revised since 1968.
Right.
that's a
And
great
it's never been
question.
noticed as a discrepancy.
That's a great
I
question.
think, I'm trying to think, I believe it went to 9 because they didn't want alternates.
Okay.
However, I would think, I agree with her changes if she wants to make changes on the director versus trustees. But the question is, are they trustees or are they directors? And should the code be changed
Or should the charter be
or the
changed?
charter be changed?
Or are they Board of Library Commissioners? I mean,
Yeah. So anyway, my feeling is that 9 is the outlier here
Yeah.
of all of this. And I don't think anybody would be dramatically opposed to making it 6, especially where it's elected. It's,
And why is
it's hard.
why are they elected versus appointed?
I guess
Because,
management of the funds for the library.
well,
But the
it
Board of
just,
Selectmen is really, it's within the Board of Selectmen budget.
Their role is to define the needs of the library, is that's on the Board of
Yeah.
Finance or Board of Selectmen or someone?
Board of
Board of
Selectmen, because it's
Selectmen puts
included
us
in
in
the Board of Selectmen budget, right?
It is in Board of Selectmen budget.
So they're not overseeing the fund.
But it's.
No,
Currents.
I would guess that
So can the charter overrule?
it's a reflection of a view about how important the library is to the public, but I haven't been around long enough to know.
I think it's 1.8 million in the current budget. I think it's the library. I'm not holding you to
You're
that.
testing me.
That sticks in my mind.
It's also distinct because it's 6-year terms, similar to
Yeah.
the Board of Finance, but.
I think the history of public libraries has something to do with this. Public libraries started off
That's
as
true.
private, nonprofit organizations that were formed, and you have one of the most famous ones here, it still exists. But like fire departments and police departments, they sort of became municipal agencies. And the statute kind of speaks to that. So you have a statute, you have the charter, and then you have the ordinance, all of which seem to be a little bit at odds. I'm not worried about the statute, because the charter can override the statute.
Yeah.
But the ordinance and the charter probably should be reconciled. One shouldn't say 9 and the other say 6. It's not a good idea. And trustees versus directors, I think, is just nomenclature. You can call them trustees or directors, whatever you want to do.
And you said previously that it has to be divisible by 3.
Three.
So it could be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
300.
Because it still has to be a third every
Right.
election.
So functionally though, if we reduce it from 9 to, this is probably a stupid question, but if we reduce it from 9 to 6, what happens then? Aren't some up for reelection or election this year, and then we
Well,
reduce the number, what do they just pick
Like-
3 people that?
Well, that's a good question, because the charter change can't, well, I guess it can throw somebody out of office that's been elected to the office, but I think it probably can do that. But usually, the way you do it is you leave people in office till they finish their term, and you have a staggered implementation schedule and the effective dates.
I think
It does
it's
get-
established
So we
in
would-
law
we would-
that if you're elected, you have to finish your term.
I think that's probably true.
But we could simply write a provision, sort of like the one we just threw in the trash earlier, under which
Yes.
only 2 members would be elected in each of the next 3.
Right, you can identify
Elections.
who's getting elected by municipal election
Yeah.
and
And we
preserve.
define it saying it will have 9 and then.
Probably take about 21 years to get it all done, but.
You'll still
Those are
be
worth
here.
changing.
That's right, but I'll be here to make sure it got.
there you go.
Right.
What month do you need off, Bob?
Yeah.
We'll give you 1 August off.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I don't think it's critical to the charter change.
Has anybody
It
asked us
just
to
looked as
reduce?
an outlier. What's
Has
that?
anybody asked us to reduce the size
Yeah,
of the?
that was my
No.
question. Has this
No,
ever come
but
up?
I do think we need to reconcile the name,
Yeah.
Board of Trustees versus Board of Directors. It's in the, I mean, I think one of the recommendations that we're gonna have is that the Board of Selectmen rewrite the code, because it hasn't been done, as you pointed out,
I
since
think the
1958.
discrepancy's in the code, not in the charter. though.
Right.
So we
says
can't
board
change the
of
code,
The
yeah.
code says Board of
Yeah.
Directors and the code says 6.
And the
That's
charter
not-
supersedes.
That's not up to us anyway.
Not up to
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
We just need to point it out that there is discrepancy.
And it doesn't appear that the code has been changed since 1968.
Right.
It might be due for an
We
upgrade.
have a lot of recommendations this year.
Do it.
Well, I mean, it also
No.
says that the Board of
It's on my-
Directors
it's on my
has
list.
hiring power, and they don't really have the hiring power for the library. So we good at leaving it at 9, because
Yeah,
it's
no
not
one's
broken,
asked
why
us.
fix it, and it would be too complicated to explain how to get down to 6 in the next 21 years.
That was the argument in favor of
Yeah,
And
changing the other one, so I'm not sure we could
So-
argue the opposite.
right.
Did you guys, do they really need to be elected? Should we?
I think the elected part is kind of, is that unusual?
Probably.
I think they should be appointed.
But that's something, no one's asked for that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
again, you know,
I think the
People should
statute
choose.
clearly allows towns to appoint a library board of trustees. There's actually two
And
different.
electing it, it's still subject to the minority/majority rule, correct?
What's that?
It's,
Yes,
as an
appointed
elected
and
body,
elected.
it's subject to the minority rule,
Mhm.
which is actually the majority rule. But
I mean, the only thing that having it as elected versus appointed, it doesn't allow for unaffiliated voters to easily become part of the board of trustees.
Yeah, 9-207 does say an elected board, but if you go down in the statute, it allows for the appointment of a, it's a
That's
weird
what
statute,
we-
it has two different ways of creating a library board.
When I looked at the comparable towns, I think one of them, maybe it was Cheshire, or something, it seemed like it had just appointed board of the library.
That would be such a big change for us to recommend when we have not, nobody
haven't
has
heard.
mentioned this to
Yeah.
us.
And if there's all
And
history
to-
of,
But
because even in
explain
this,
to
it says the free library is the designated principal library, you know, and then somewhere along the line, we built this library and probably redesignated it.
Yeah, yeah. And to explain to people that it's not on the ballot,
Yeah.
you know, how, when we have not been asked to do
Right.
this, that's,
Well, as it
That's a
stands now, there are
big
no
project.
unaffiliateds on the board of library trustees.
Because it's too hard to be unaffiliated
it's
and
too
get on the
hard to
ballot for
run as
anything.
But I'm just wondering,
That's an overarching.
but that's one of the
plan.
things that a lot of people said, we gotta figure out how to include more
Well,
unaffiliated.
but we talked
Yeah.
about, one of the recommendations was that the town clerk provide a clear
No,
explanation of the path to get on the ballot for people.
Point of-
But it's not a charter issue.
Point of information to address Commissioner Shivaswamy's comment. The Board of Selectmen in their recommendations to the charter revision for you to consider was in A1 subsection C, review appointed versus elected membership. So, of the boards and commissions in town.
I don't see why they have to be on ballot.
Yeah.
It's the library.
I know.
No one, I appreciate what you're saying, but no one in this town is all jazzed up about electing
Board of
the
trustees.
board on the library. It's just not. Every question I get is, why are they on the ballot?
yeah,
no, I get that.
Yeah.
You know, I am personally comfortable moving, an appointed to elected, but not the other way around. So, but again, it's the decision of the majority, and I'm okay with that, but that's my rule, if you're going with appointed versus elected, and people have the ability to elect, I would prefer to honor that and move appointed to elected, but not elected to appointed.
I agree, and not one person's come to talk about that, and the board of trustees hasn't mentioned that either.
So you're
I
in
don't-
favor of leaving it where it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
no,
I agree, but we have gotten a lot of comments that only reference the code, as if they've
Yeah.
never even
Right.
read
even though
the
we kept
charter
saying
that we
charter,
asked them to
charter,
review.
charter.
All right, so are we all good with just leaving it as is?
I think it's good, but I think I would like to make a note of, I think it's the Board of Selectmen that needs to look at this as well.
Well, we're gonna make it, it's gonna be
Yes,
part of our
I see.
recommendation.
Look at their
But they-
ordinance,
they-
you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah, the
at their
ordinance.
ordinances.
Particularly where they call the board of directors or board of trustees.
Yes.
Madam Chair, did the commission have a recommendation on for the code to match the charter language
No,
and
we're
call
gonna
it?
keep it as board of trustees, right?
Okay, so it's, yes.
Yeah.
They just need to fix the 1958 ordinance.
Yep.
They should be looking at the ordinance.
Yeah, every 2 years, the ordinance should be looked at.
Okay.
You can make that a recommendation.
I love
We
that.
will.
Yeah.
So,
They don't have this.
the October 9th meeting, we have the most important subject left, looking at Bert.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to make the October 9th meeting, so I was
my
hoping we could defer that budget discussion to the 20th.
Okay. So,
Thanks.
for the October 9th
It's
meeting,
Diwali.
Pardon?
20th is Diwali, but I'm the only one. No, but which means that you're all gonna have to celebrate with me here.
on what day, the 20th?
The 20th.
Everyone come in festive clothing on the 20th. It's Diwali,
Oh,
Festival of Lights.
yes.
You're illegal.
So do we want to, on the 9th, may I suggest that we take that time to look at, I don't wanna go in depth, okay? Just, I want us to look at all of our suggested changes to the charter to make and just, I would like to take a vote that we are good with adopting whatever we're recommending in the amended version of everything except for the Board of Finance chapter. So we are good to go on that piece of it, and we can just discuss the Board of Finance. So we can start preparing our report that goes to the Board of Selectmen with our suggested changes.
That might be worthwhile. I totally endorse that.
Okay, does that work for everybody?
You're not good.
I know, you're not in there.
Well played.
Jackie has something to say.
No, and hopefully get comments back from
Open Space.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and Open Space. So we'd like to resolve
Or we
Open
can defer that
Space.
too until you're.
And we just wanna make sure that everything else that we are proposing, we'll all read through it and make sure that we're all good with everything else, except for the Board of Finance chapter that we'll save for the 20th.
I think we could, I'm speaking for Franklin here, but we could provide the commission with the working draft of the red line charter and allow the commission to go read through it and confirm that the red
Yeah.
lines are what you want them to be, and also provide an extended outline of the report, so you can confirm that the format that we've been talking about is what you want it to be.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful, because I wanna try to keep on that timeline,
Yeah, because then you can just,
insert the Board of Finance stuff, and
yeah, and whatever else you decide to do before you hold your public hearing.
right.
Did we clarify when actually we have to do it? Was there a question regarding being?
It's a month later.
When, right,
February.
constituted versus appointed? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's really a month later. Okay. That pushes us in March.
February.
February, it was January.
February for the public hearing or for the?
February
For the
for
report.
the transmittal of the
The- yeah, the
report
last
to the
one.
town clerk,
In the middle of the report.
which
At
means
the
you've had your
latest.
public hearing, you've taken your final vote, and you send it off to the town clerk, and it becomes the Board of Selectmen's work thereafter.
I'll make a motion for the final vote right now.
Okay. Do I have a motion? I know Jacqueline's gonna. She's already.
Jumping.
Would you like to make the motion this evening?
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for all of your time.
thank you.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town.
Bringing us together through local programming,
Education and live broadcasts.
SEM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community.
Ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings. And celebrating milestones.
like our high school graduations.
But today, SEM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions. And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SEM receives less revenue.
Even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open.
Continues to educate our youth and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SEM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
For generations to come.
Visit our website
Or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media.
where your town
Your schools
And your government come together.